afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Is that good? Thank you all. You soggy? Are your feet dry? No, I know. My name is Deborah McDowell, and it is my distinct pleasure and honor to meet you, to welcome you. I am the chair of the Department of African American and African Studies within the Carnegie-Woodson Institute, which is soon to celebrate its 1-year anniversary as the newest department in the College and Graduate School of Arts and Sciences at the University of It brings me great pleasure to welcome you to our diploma ceremony. As you know, these are occasions for rites and rituals, for the observation of tradition. And so I will begin by making a few acknowledgments in a ritual known to my colleagues because they hear it every year, but unknown to most of you in the audience for whom this ritual is intended first and foremost. First, let us applaud the mothers and fathers, grandparents, godparents, step-parents, guardians, play-parents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, friends, siblings, step-parents, all our kin. It's a good thing that we can now define kin in blessedly elastic ways. So if I have missed any categories that you use, you can shout them out right now. Did I forget anybody? Cousins! Yes! Of course, cousins are critically important. Anybody else I missed? Apart from cousins? Any new names? Boo's? All right? Boo's, next boo's, and wanna be boo's? We often hear our students express their apprehension about how relatives react when their names are called at these ceremonies. You know, we've heard things like, well, I hope my mother doesn't say glory, hallelujah, or something else that might embarrass me. But I say, let your people say whatever they want to say, as long as it's clean and legal.
There you go.
And you students should also feel free to celebrate your achievements.
That's right.
Reservedly. Earlier this month, some of you may remember, graduation marshals at the University of Florida pushed and pulled and hustled along Black graduates as they were celebrating their degrees by dancing across the commencement stage. So if you feel like doing the guara guara, have at it. And maybe you can help me learn, because my niece and nephew say I will never get it. All right. Next, I would like to acknowledge the faculty members, not all of whom could be with us this afternoon. Many of our faculty are jointly appointed in other departments, and they often have conflicting ceremonies. It's a very difficult choice to make, but we are happy to acknowledge the presence of some of our faculty members. Professor Lisa Shutt is right there. Raise up your hand. Professor Talitha LaFloria is right there. And Professor Andrew Carl. Did I miss anybody? Don't think so. Okay. I want to acknowledge our staff members. Shelley, you think you're hiding back there. I saw you try to make your exit. Shelley Thomas, Deborah Bass, interns, Tracy, Keith is an all-around Woodson photographer. Seth, a Carter Woodson Fellow. Tamika Dyson in the graduating class. Exactly. So we are one big happy family in our little cocoon over here. Okay. You members of the class of 2018 sit here proudly before us, ready to commence the next stage of your journeys. Indeed, your presence here represents the evolution of determined efforts of a group of students who preceded you by several decades. Students who seized the responsibility and took the revolutionary action of demanding a role in the definition of scholarly knowledge and of forcing colleges and universities around the country to rethink the mission of institutions of higher education. Your predecessors right here at the University of Virginia were committed to the marriage of scholarship and citizenship, a marriage critical to the formation of a truly democratic society. Your predecessors, all members of the Black Students for Freedom, submitted a proposal for an Afro-American Studies program here at Virginia. Outlining the goals of this proposal, they wrote, "The obligation of American universities in regard to Afro-American culture is not satisfied by the spate of undergraduate programs put together in response to the demand for recognition of the subject. It is our opinion that a sincere and meaningful response requires a balanced and integrated program of undergraduate and graduate teaching and research. This year, 68 undergraduates majored in African American and African Studies. Of that number, a total of 29 will receive their degrees today. Of that 29, 17 are participating in our ceremony. I should note here the fact that our students are frequently torn between which diploma ceremony to attend. And that is a testament not only to the interdisciplinary character of our enterprise and to the collaborative spirit on which it thrives, but also to the enterprising and conscientious character of our students, that they can often complete 2 majors during their 4 years here. We applaud all of our graduating majors, not only for the quality of their work in our courses, but also for the initiative they have shown in developing research agendas of their own, either within the framework of carefully designed independent study courses or undertaking 4th-year theses. This year, Michael Watson, our lone distinguished major, brought to our unit and to the wider university by entering and winning the Kennedy Center National Undergraduate Playwriting Award for her play, Can, about which I'll have much more to say at the end of our ceremony. But let me now turn to Professor Talitha LaFloria, who will introduce our speaker. Professor LaFloria continues to bring her own distinction to our unit, to our university, and to the wider world of U.S. higher education and scholarship. For her study, Chained in Silence, Black Women and Convict Labor in the New South, she has received practically every award historians bestow on those who are members of their guild. We call her, or I call her in private, some of you of my generation, which I shall not declare, may recall the old song with different meanings, the clean-up woman. So I call Talitha the clean-up woman because she is cleaning up every award it seems that people want to give her. Most recently, she received the much coveted and prestigious fellowship from the Andrew Carnegie Foundation. I give you Professor Talitha. Oh, okay.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Congratulations to all of the
today's commencement speaker, Professor Kwame Edwin Otu. Professor Otu is an assistant professor of African American and African Studies at the Carnegie Wilson Institute. He joined the Woodson faculty in fall of 2016 after completing the prestigious Woodson pre-doctoral fellowship here at UVA. Professor Otu obtained his PhD in cultural anthropology at Syracuse University and an MA in sociology from Ohio University. Before his postgraduate degrees, he earned a BA degree with honors in sociology from the University of Ghana. Professor Otu's ongoing research transects issues of sexual citizenship, gender, human rights ideals, and neoliberal racial formations in post-colonial Africa. He is currently completing his book manuscript entitled Amphibious Subjects, Sassoy and the Contested Politics of Queer Self-Making in Neoliberal Ghana. The book is an ethnographic exploration of how a community of self-identified feminine men, known in local parlance as Sassoy, navigates homophobia and the increased visibility of LGBT human rights politics in Ghana. The study of race in post-colonial Africa is also central to Professor Otu's work, as are critical inquiries on race in the African diaspora. His future project combines ethnography with documentary to investigate questions of suffering and resignation in Africa. Professor Otu will approach these concerns by focusing on an e-waste dump site in Accra, Ghana, to underscore how Africa's location as a site of extraction and deposition reflects the enduring legacies of racism. In addition to his academic work, Professor Otu has collaborated with the award-winning Ghanaian-American filmmaker, Akosua Adoma Awosu, to produce the film Reluctantly Queer. Premiering at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2016, it featured in the New Director Film Series held under the auspices of the Film Society Lincoln Center and MoMA. So let's give Professor Otu a very warm
Good afternoon, everybody. It feels so wonderful to be here and to be actually standing in front of you all. It's evident that not all of you were much fun, but all of you were taught by me. But it doesn't matter. And I'm very happy to stand in front of you all today because I also want to acknowledge just how important this day is and that you all are survivors, given the events of August 2012. Right, so you've really come far, and that if you sit here today, we just have to give glory to the universe, right, for having us collect. So once again, good afternoon, everybody. What an honor to gather here. Am I audible enough? Okay.
No.
Oh, no? Hello? Okay. What an honor to gather here to celebrate this wonderful occasion. A celebration of transition. This is a ritual of joy that not everybody gets to experience. It is a ritual that has been very long in the making, a ritual which is part of a much longer undertaking. It is apparent that this ritual has involved a constellation of people, parents, family, staff, faculty, friends, loved ones, and the graduating students who have over the years committed themselves to work on themselves for the betterment of our society. This ritual reminds us that life is a paradox of growth and that various ingredients are needed in the cultivation and the nourishment of our various life pursuits. In his piercing foreword to the Brazilian Marxist Paulo Freire's book entitled Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Richard Shaw expresses how Freire operates on one basic assumption, which is, and I quote, that man's ontological vocation is to be a subject who acts upon and transforms his world, and in so doing, moves towards ever new possibilities of fuller and richer life individually and collectively. This world to which he relates, continues Shaw, is not a static and closed order, a given reality which man must accept and which he must adjust, Rather, it is a problem to be worked on and solved. It is the material used by man to create history, a task which he performs and does to create, a task which he performs as he overcomes that which is dehumanizing at any particular time and place, and thus to create the qualitatively new. We are here today because of you graduates. Your individual accomplishments and again the connective tissue that brings us together to share in this unquantifiable joy. In finding joy together as Pharaoh reminds us, we are daring to produce something qualitatively new and healthy for ourselves and society, since an island society produces malodorous individuals. When at the beginning of this semester, I received an email from Professor Deborah McDowell to deliver this year's commencement address, I was quite literally hit by a bolt of shock. In fact, it immediately dawned on me that it has been 12 years since I graduated from the University of Ghana with a bachelor's degree in sociology. I think they're enjoying the graduation. The ceremony was held on one very hot Saturday in late May 2006 at the University Sports Arena. At the time, I had the littlest idea what was going to come of my life. Never did I envision that I was going to be working in a university, let alone land a job in the American Academy. Just as I had no idea regarding what I wanted to do in college, after graduating from high school, I transitioned from the University of Ghana, remaining clueless about my future. At the time, I was never really interested or invested in coming to the United States to pursue a graduate degree. But somehow, an encounter changed my life. This encounter was with a student I tutored while completing my national service as a teaching assistant in the Department of Sociology at the University of Ghana. This student somehow persuaded me to consider applying to enroll in a graduate program in the US. The student I was mentoring became my mentor. Their logic was that I could easily get into any school. And to be clear, before his persuasion, I had been rejected by several programs in the United Kingdom. Cambridge University's program in Global Cultural Encounters being one of them. In Ghana, the vision and mission to pursue a postgraduate degree in the West represent, quite frankly, an opportunity to flee from misery and resignation for many. And for the likes of me, who had no connections abroad, the impulse for graduate school was part of a larger pulsation to witness the world our parents never experienced. Such experience, we believed, would allow us to enjoy the benefits intergenerational mobility afforded, which is to flee from the intolerable conditions in which we saw our parents and in which our parents' lives were embedded. Sometimes our parents, by virtue of their investments in making life better for us, had to sacrifice a great deal by speculating to accumulate. Together, my friend and I applied to enroll in the master's program at Ohio University. In 2 or so months, we learned the outcome of our applications. I was accepted, he was not, and now face the prospects of going to a strange land without the emotional and academic support that these friends afforded. Imagine how I felt as the very person who encouraged me to apply to graduate school felt the pangs of rejection. It was definitely jarring and disheartening. How could I celebrate the joy of being accepted, while at the same time mourn the rejection of my friend? Truth be told, and this is where I would like to begin my story, my friend came from a very opulent Ashanti family in Kumasi. Therefore, he was always the one likely to find acceptance in nearly all circles. As a student at the University of Ghana, he traveled abroad every summer to the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Germany. Thus, while I spent the summer either assisting in selling items at my mother's provision shop or doing some clerical work for a measly wage, my friend worked in Europe where he got paid in euros and pounds. In fact, he came to acquire the title London boy. I say this story to highlight one key truth about the journey of life. It can be unpredictable. There are moments of precarity, but sometimes our connections to community either assuage or heighten such uncertainty. And this is the paradox of growth, that life can be uncomfortable. I emerged from the working poor in Ghana. My mother was a secretary at the University of Ghana, where she rose through the ranks to become a senior administrative assistant. Upon securing a job at the university, she proceeded to find my father a job as a night watchman, your equivalent of a security guard. The nature of my father's schedule required that he always worked the night shift. Imagine being a security guard in Ghana at night, where mosquitoes sang the songs of malaria by inflicting bites on you. Now that was the kind of life I witnessed. At the same time, at the time, we lived in a large compound house in Medina, a slum on the periphery of not just the city of Accra, Ghana's capital, but society in general. There was no loo on the compound. Every morning, together with my mother and 2 cousins, we undertook a 1.5 mile walk to the nearest public latrine. The latrine, one of the only few public toilets in the community, always had a queue even around 5 in the morning. To avoid the queues, we embarked on our toilet journeys, leaving the house in the wee hours of the morning. Now ask yourself what one did when they had an emergency nature's call. I leave that to your imagination. These morning walks to the loo presented my mother with opportunity to dish to us the advice we needed to become better people in society. Telling us to dare to be different, like she did growing up in the 60s, she told us to not really ever cave in, but to be very confident and independent in the ways in which we thought. And this is coming from a woman who, because they grew up in the 60s, was called a female rooster because she dared to challenge her male siblings. This morning, if I stand behind this podium today to deliver this speech, some of the credit goes to her and to my friend and to the wider community that have undertaken this journey called life with me. So from Medina as a slum dweller to Charlottesville, Virginia, and from the University of Ghana as a student to the University of Virginia as an assistant professor, trust me, this journey has most certainly been unpredictable. I am an anthropologist, so I'm not merely providing you with this brief autoethnographic excerpt without abstracting some theory from it. And as Ferry has suggested in the pedagogy of the oppressed, we, and I quote, we have to be excited by a process of social reflection, which is set in a thoroughly historical context, which is carried on in the midst of a struggle to create new social order, and thus represents a new unity of theory and practice. End of quote. I want to extract a theory of fugitivity from my own life account to challenge you into thinking about and living fugitively in a world made so uncomfortable by the oppressive structures of white, heterosexist, religious, classist, ableist, and other forms of supremacies. My life story, like my mother's own life story, is one of fleeing to become free. One may say that I live the fugitive's life or I live a fugitive's life. I want to have us ponder what it means then to be fugitive and how perhaps Black people's lives have always operated from places of fugitivity. Derived from the Latin word fugere, fugitive translates as to flee. In Old French, it is fugitive. As a noun, it describes a person who is fleeing from prosecution, intolerable circumstances, etc., a runaway. Applying this translation to my snippet of the story I have shared, I can then be regarded as a fugitive. There are also several adjectival iterations of the word fugitive, some of which I list here. 1, having taken flight or run away, a fugitive slave. Fleeting, transitory, being elusive, that is having fugitive thoughts that should not be defined. Dealing with subjects of passing interest, as writings, ephemeral, fugitive essays, wandering, roving, being a vagabond. Now, in these various interpretations or readings, fugitive is someone who is transitory or transient. They ask questions about their state, they desire to be free. In fact, they start for movement in order to avoid lethargy. Now, let us consider the evolution of our humanity, for example. The moment of our separation from apes is highly indebted to our becoming bipedal. That we stood upright on the continent of Africa, humanity's cradle. An uprightness that extended the horizons of our visions, made us leave behind those weaknesses that chained us to nature. In that regard, bipedalism was a fugitive move, which freed us from the intolerable circumstance of having a limited vision and freedom, if you will. Once we became bipedal, we moved to the beyond, unknown, daring, as Freire will say, to generate a qualitatively new. Since fugitivity is the hook that permits me to think about my own life, such as taking flight from Ghana, I wonder what it would mean to undertake a critical analysis of fugitivity within our current educational system. Here, I turn to our own namesake, Kadaji Woodson, to explore why living fugitively might be an important way to navigate the current world in which we live. Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro, reveals how to a large degree mental lynching occurs through our educational systems. For Woodson, those disciplines we enroll in, while apparently committed to freeing us, rather stifles our imaginations. In these systems, to refuse to comply is to be pathologized, is to be called a troublemaker, is to be called somebody who complains a lot. Ignorance at the institutional level, therefore, is celebrated as brilliant. And as Angel Kyoto Williams reminds us, it combines with greed and anger to obscure the entire range of that which keeps us from touching reality. I have mentioned earlier on how bipedalism releases us from an incipient state to a more advanced state, evidenced by a broadened ability to see and a veritable agility to move. While I'm not keen on privileging the sense of sight, it is clear that our ability to move also enhances our sensory abilities. In his chapter entitled The Loss of Vision in Miseducation, history, argues Woodson, shows that as a result of these unusual forces in the education of the Negro, he easily learns to follow the line of least resistance, rather than battle against odds for what real history has shown to be the right course. He proceeds to express that, and I quote, "A mind that remains in the present atmosphere never undergoes sufficient development to experience what is commonly known as thinking. No Negro thus submerged in the ghetto then will have a clear conception of the present status of the race or sufficient foresight to plan for the future. And he drifts so far towards compromise that he loses moral courage. The education of the Negro," Woodson continues, "then becomes a perfect device for control from without. Those who purposely promote it have reason to rejoice, and Negroes themselves exultingly champion the cause of the oppressor." End of quote. So see how the loss of a vision bleeds the Negro dry by making them conform to structures of domination not of their own creation. In other words, the loss of vision impedes any attempt for freedom. The attempt to arrive at the understanding that nobody can imprison the power of your imagination. To live fugitively thus means to exercise your imagination creatively and critically. Having overused Woodson in these last quotes, I really want to end with a couple of questions for our graduating students in particular and all here in general. I began my remarks by suggesting that we are currently celebrating a ritual which requires our collective efforts. So please give me room to be a little fugitive here, okay? Because I'm an anthropologist, and as an anthropologist, we really do like rituals, and rituals as they are seen to be liminal, right? In moments when we are having rituals such as a wedding or an outdoor in a birth ceremony or a funeral, that things that are supposed to govern, those rules that govern society, are often suspended, so people can express joy or grief, right? So that led me to leave you with the following questions. Please. Did you live a fugitive life while you were at UVA? Right? Are you going to, as you move out of UVA, follow the line of least resistance, rather than battle against all odds in the name of preserving a job, respect, and avoiding confrontation or fear? Remember that to be in this state is what Woodson says will actually limit you, or your ability will limit you from being able to access, right, that domain of vista of freedom. Therefore, I encourage you all to live fugitively by operating from a point of critique, a place where you make room for doubt, mistakes, and looking at the world through the lens of critical consciousness. And as I encourage you to live fugitively in your various destinations following UVA, you also have to dare to pay attention. It is a vital resource for our world today. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoy your fugitive lives.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Carl, and I am the AAS Program's Director of Undergraduate Studies. And it is my very sincere pleasure and honor to introduce you to 2018 graduates in African American and African Studies. Graduates, you should come forward to receive your diploma when your name is called. All right. So,
you have to tell them twice.
Julissa Sierra Allen. She's been a member of the UVA women's basketball team, where in addition to training, watching film, travel and mediation, is engaged in numerous community service activities, including food drives, speaking to local elementary schools, and coaching Special Olympics basketball teams. Julissa plans to further her education by attending graduate school with the goal of becoming a physical therapist. Jeffrey Allgood. Director of Fashion for the Cause, and also the Gallery Chair of the Collegiate 100 Society. Next year, he'll be working as a college counselor with the Virginia College Advising Corps and at William Fleming High School. All right. Next up, Diamante Richard Bailey. Diamante has been a counselor at the Ola Boys. He's been a sales executive at Cal Force. He's interned as an executive assistant at Harold and Chambliss in Richmond, and a volunteer for the Student Athlete Advisory Council, Boys and Girls Club, Cruise in Laville. So, congratulations. Christopher Cameron Coachman. At UVA, Christopher has held leadership positions in Eta Sigma chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi, Sigma 100 Black in Society, served as a mentor and tutor through the Kappa League and Guide Right, and is a member of BSA. Next year, he will be working with the Virginia Collegiate Advising Corps as a college advisor in Petersburg, PA. Okay, Virginia. She's a double major in Spanish and African American Studies. Vice President for Musical Development with Black Voices Gospel Choir. She's been a Community Relations and Management Chair for BSA. She's also worked extensively both as a junior counselor at Camp Wamava, and next year she will be serving as a secondary English teacher for the Peace Corps. Charity Malia Dinko. Phi Theta Kappa National. Also, member of the semi-finalist for the 2018 Draper competition for the Collegiate Women Entrepreneurs. She is the founder of More Shea, all natural and sustainable shea butter-based among hardworking women in Ghana through shea butter production. She's also the founder of Malia Dinka Photography, president and lead photographer of Humans of Virginia, and also has worked as a nationally certified pharmacy technician. Shea with future plans to attend dental school. Tanika Sherelle Dyson. Member of the Black Voices Gospel Choir and Black Student Alliance. She has also worked as an intern here at the Woodson Institute, and she will be deeply missed. Next year, she plans to serve as a Peace Corps volunteer in Rwanda, where she will be a secondary education English teacher. Full tuition scholarship. After graduation, she plans on attending Life University, where she will be getting a master's in exercise science. Nice. Mariama. Foreign Affairs. They have a minor in social entrepreneurship. At UVA, she served as a programming and identity personal development intern at the Multicultural Student Center. She has also helped launch and manage the roundtable discussions and diversity chats. She's created and managed a sustained dialogue series called Real Talk. And she has been a leader in the organization of African students, where she has also been a senior advisor, president, and events planner. After graduation, she plans to pursue a career in economic and education policy. Dorian Eileen. Scholar and a Rainy Scholar. At UVA, she has been a small group coordinator for the one-way fellowship. She volunteered in Madison House, had internships in Richmond and in Danville, Virginia. Next year, she will be working for a government agency as a contract specialist. Masters in Management of Information Technology. Selena Shante Martin. To major in AS, she is also a minor in sociology, and at UVA she has served as a tutor for America Reads, social and cultural programming co-chair for Black Student Alliance, director of outreach for Creative Fashion, university outreach volunteer for UVA's Office of Admissions, and next year she will be returning to her hometown of Houston, Texas. She's also a teacher for Teach for America. Charles Hayden Thomas Parrish. At the Meriwether Lewis Institute for Citizens Leadership. He's also been a big brother for the Men's Leadership Project. Too many things to name here. Also, Vice President and co-founder of the College Diabetes Network.
Nice.
And next year, he will be a college advisor for the Virginia College Advisor Corps, placed in the Urbana County High School. Jasmine Najee Richards. Director of Finance and Director of Logistics for Fashion for a Cause. She has worked at OAAA this year as an office assistant, and next year she will be working at Randolph Henry High School in Charlotte, Fort House, Virginia, as a college advisor.
Love you. Love you too.
Demetrius Daniel Spicer. Demetrius comes from the city of brotherly love. He has been a member of the Muslim Students Association, 12 Wrestling, a manager of the UVA varsity wrestling team. He's also played on a number of different intramural sports. And over the summers, he has mentored young wrestlers for the Beat for the